How was Baltimore?
I'd never been to Baltimore before, and it is now my favorite con. It's like total respect for comics, and I'm so used to going to cons where you're trampled by video games and movies and movie stars, and where artist alley is like tucked in the basement. This is like a comic writers con. It is the best. And you're making comics now, right?
Yes, I didn't bring my stuff to plug. I didn't prepare for a plug,
Oh,
but um I put out my zine recently, my third zine.
oh, nice.
Um it's like this. It's an interview zine, but I have a bunch of essays in there. And
Oh, cool.
um I remember the last time we talked, we were talking about, you were like, I want to go back to Artist Alley and just stuff like print off my own stuff and
Yeah, I
put
do.
that
I
stuff out
still
there.
do.
Yeah.
I still do because I draw, but I'm not a very good artist. And but I have started to draw again because I really want to do like a homemade comic.
Yeah.
But it's hard. You got to make a living. And so I was working on my graphic novel to follow Ruby Falls and the Seeds, but it basically got derailed by needing money, because to do a graphic novel, you've got to kind of produce the whole thing for a low rate and then hope it sells. You to just get a flat out page rate, and also the lore of, but the lore, like the X-Men Legends series, and how, oh, there it is, you got it. Wow, it's out. I signed a few at Baltimore Con, and then I went looking for a copy, and they were all sold out. The thing about X-Men Legends is that they ask you to redo some sweet spot from your history at Marvel. And so when Mark Basso called me and said, do you want to do Longshot? It's like, you can't resist. I can't resist that. So it was the same with doing Electra 100 and them saying, you want to just have a battle with Typhoid and Electra? And I was like, oh my God, you really know how to get me.
There was another Daredevil book also that I think had.
There was a Daredevil 650 that had Johnny in it, and I wrote a 4-page story for Chip Zdarsky to draw, and Chip is an amazing artist. I mean, he took the script, and it was a very lyrical script. It was kind of like on a rooftop with laundry flowing, and it was kind of like I was going for like a Eisner feeling of like, yeah, litter blowing in the city and it was from the point of view of the women, who all they do is wash the bloody clothes of, they were like the Irish gang, the Westies, and it was a gang war, and all they do is wash the blood out of the clothes.
Yeah.
And Daredevil comes flying through the laundry, and it was just like Chip just turned it into magic. I mean, he's so good. He's so busy writing. I guess he doesn't have a lot of time to draw.
The last time we were talking about the Seeds, you were talking about working on the Seeds with David Aja, and you were drawing out the book and doing layouts, and it's like, this isn't what you hand to the artist and say, this is how you're supposed to do it. It's,
No.
this is how I see it in my head.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that it's possible.
Yes. Yeah. So like there was a page that was, I mean, just to pick an obvious one, there was a page that was a turtle and cracked earth and the beer can plastic holder in order to incorporate 3 layers of hexagons, not hexagrams. I guess we turned our hexagons into hexagrams, though. And So I got the reference, and then I laid it out as I would lay it out. And it was very direct on those three things. And then, I don't send the thumbnails to David, but when his thumbnails came back, the way he did like a slow creep of the turtle through, and it just was like, it wasn't something I had thought of, and it was just genius. And you realize that if you don't draw that often, you're a baby playing your brand new instrument. And it was just so much fun to see what he did with each page. But I've been doing that my whole career. I've always done little thumbnails, and it's probably after Longshot, because with Longshot, I didn't really know what I was doing yet. And I think I gave Arthur like, 10 panel pages, and didn't know how, basic beginner mistakes, like when you put two actions in one panel and the artist goes, duh, I can't draw two actions in one panel. And when I saw Arthur suffering with my complicated, dense, overwritten plots, I went, I got to get a handle on this. And so by the time I was doing Daredevil, I would make little frames just to make sure it could be drawn, So I've been doing that my whole career.
You might not know when a book is going to come out or when it's going to get made. So what if you write something down or write a script and you're thinking, I have no idea what the hell I was saying 3 years from now. And then you have to like draw it out and say, oh, okay, this is what it means.
Yeah, well, the seeds took years. So there was a little bit of that, more especially with things we thought were futuristic became real. And then you can't act as if it's futuristic anymore. You have to turn it from tomorrow's news into yesterday's news. So there was more of that going on.
I haven't been, I feel like I've been tuned out with comics. I don't know if you've been checking out anything, but for me, I've been paying attention to a lot of what's happening in Iran right now.
Yeah.
The whole Masa Amini situation has been, for me, it's like you go on Twitter and it's just people complaining about the billionaire narcissist man child who's like, every week I'm going to buy Twitter, or She-Hulk's twerking, and it's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, being from the Iranian background, it's disheartening to see people not talk about it at all, or there's just nowhere you can go unless you're like from Iran or people who are tuned in.
I don't think Twitter is a barometer for anything anymore, because in my circle of friends, we're passing around petitions, we're sending each other links about many different spots in the world. Like, I personally track Haiti pretty closely. How much of the world knows what's going on in Haiti right now? I mean, they're collapsing. And it's sort of, especially countries where I've spent time in, like I made 2 films with Wendy Johnson in Baluchistan, and Baluchistan bore the brunt of that insane flood. And they were just flooded, and the world doesn't care. They're like homeless and the world doesn't care. So I think that one of the things that's important is when you have a personal connection to a place that you've gone to, you've either worked in, or, then you track the news there and try to like bring it into the mainstream as much as you can. I mean, I'm always posting links to stuff about Haiti on Facebook, and it gets like 0 likes. No one even looks at it. But I think because of the situation, we're all passing, we're passing links around about Iran, and we're just completely standing behind. I mean, it's just so frightening. So I think either a personal connection or a more underground network, because Twitter, I mean, come on. It's like Twitter's like the mosh pit.
Yeah.
The mosh, it's where you go, and if you say something, you get beat up. So why would I go into a mosh pit?
Yeah. I mean, it's like all of them too. It's, like, it's just online for me is not, for news sources, yes, go on there and read about news, but there's no discourse happening here.
Yeah. I mean, I follow some interesting discourse. If you follow a lot of journalists, and
Mhm.
you can shut out some of the noise. But now I don't even know what's going on. I can't even, like, the algorithms seem to be all tumbled up, and um but as comic creators, us both work that we it's that old phrase from like the 70s, which is think global, act local. And it's all you can do. You can put out a comic that draws attention to something, or a philosophy, or a way of living in the world. I think that with the seeds, David Aha and I were very much like, maybe the world is going to hell, but let's not dig bunkers and hide. If something happens, let's be out there together helping each other. And that was like an underlying theme of, like, how to process the things that come. And you can't drive yourself crazy. I have friends that doom scroll all day and they're ready
Yeah.
for the loony bin, and it's like, just take a tiny bit of it and become passionate about something that you believe in. It could be anything, and that's the way to stay sane and do your part.
Before we get into the comics thing, because again, what you're talking about, you post the Haiti link and people are like, okay, they don't check it out. We'll talk about
Yeah.
comics, but we can talk about the real world a little bit. I would just encourage people to just pause this, go look up what's happening in Iran, go look up what's happening in Haiti.
Yeah.
Um, People wanting the bare minimum of human rights. They don't want to wear headdresses. They don't want to be treated.
Yeah.
Um, it's just people who don't want to be slaughtered and they're being killed by, I'm doing air quotes, morality police and religious extremists, and it's just
Yeah.
it's inspiring and horrifying, like you said.
Well, I mean, it's happening in this country too. So it's like
Yes.
the intense wrath people have against transgender people. It makes no sense to me.
Right.
Like, no sense. I mean, to me, non-binary, androgyny, trans, these are the people that represent the future of humanity.
Yeah.
They're not going to be wiped out. They actually are the future. These new configurations of what humans could be, that's the future. Learn how to have empathy and embrace it. What is the point of just trying to kill things you don't understand? I mean, if
Yes.
you don't understand it, don't kill it. Get to know it. It's to me, it's just baffling. But again, you do what you can do. You do your tiny little tiny small part. And the personal connect, I understand why nobody wants to deal with Haiti. And and I understand that, like, you have to have a personal connection to something. But if simply, somebody told me like less than half of Americans have passports. Like, simply go to another country and see what it's actually like. Develop a personal connection to it, and develop like a sister city. They used to have these sister city programs where a more affluent community would take on the wonderful thing of helping a developing community. And that's like something that can completely enrich your life. So I don't know. Anyway, if we ruled the world, the
Right.
thing,
If empathy prevailed,
yes, my superpower,
yeah.
empathy.
First off, before the comics thing, you never know what someone's going through. Don't make snap judgments. Just
Yeah.
be understanding. But on the comics front, what I always loved about your work is that you have the background in journalism, and your stories are told in a journalist way. Daredevil, it's you walking around New York and just
Yeah.
observing things and putting that in your stories. And I actually read it was a New Mutants annual that you wrote, where it's the New Mutants get taken to this other dimension, and it's like spliced in with a protest story. It's these kids
Yeah.
protesting, polluted water. You could just set this in Flint, Michigan, or
Yeah.
something. The same story, and then it's
I think that was also because when I did Mojo World and the Mojoverse and how everyone was like glued to their TVs all the time, and he was thought controlling the whole universe through these screens. And this is all pre-internet 1980s. I think I still wanted to tell the next chapter of that, and I put it in a New Mutants where I was able to really take one of, like Noam Chomsky's manufacturing consent
Yeah.
concept to turn it into a cartoon. It was like, I mean, for me, it was an extension of what I had started in the Mojoverse. But also, that's again, it's like these kids that I forget who tells them, just if your river's polluted, just go sit in it and put spots of color on you and refuse to move until they clean the river. I mean, that's what happens in that narrative. While this whole other dimension shows that media is becoming this impossible to figure out situational ethics, manufactured consent. You can still sit in a river and draw attention to your problem.
Yeah.
That was kind of the idea. Anyway.
Yeah, I love that. Part of me, I love the story. Part of me just imagines someone picking up this issue thinking like, where are the costume people punching each other, as opposed to
Yeah.
like this
I think I
actual
had
commentary.
I think I had Gorbachev and Reagan go at it or something. I think I had the bear and the eagle or something going
Yeah.
at it. I mean, yeah, it was difficult to sort of shoehorn in action.
When you come back to stuff like, you did Longshot that came out recently. Do you have to go back and research that stuff, or is,
Oh yeah.
Longshot pretty close to you still?
I had not read the Longshot series probably since it came out, because I don't know about other writers, but I never reread my work because I'm just too terrified it's going to suck, So I pulled out the Longshot series and reread it. So Mark Basso called me and asked me if I wanted to do this. And I reread the series and I realized that I had the most fun with the triad of Mojo Spiral and Major Domo. I felt like, I called them the infernal family that were like trapped with each other, and they're just constantly like bitching at each other and undermining each other and backstabbing each other, and at the same time kowtowing to each other. And it's like, I realized that that's what I wanted to go back to. I wanted to like have fun with that. Like, I didn't have any genius ideas about going from how Mojo's whole thing back in the 80s was, I've got you through the television, like I didn't necessarily want to do now I've got you through the internet, because it also takes place back then.
Yeah.
So you have to tell the story as if the internet never happened, and as if social media never happened. And if we binging, back then you couldn't even binge watch, you
Yeah.
could sit in front of the TV all day, but you couldn't binge anything. And so I decided instead to make it a kind of like, because after Longshot, I spent 10 years writing screenplays and making films, and I kind of decided, you know what, I'm going to make it be a meta narrative about how do you tell a good story? Because everyone who works in storytelling, be it a novel or a comic or a film, it's really hard. No matter how many times you do a new narrative, it's really hard to make it a great narrative. Like, we fail over and over and over. And I think that failure is what keeps us going, because we're always like, this time I'm going to get it right, And I did find that working with Karen Berger on Ruby Falls and Seeds, I got closer to getting the narrative so that it flowed the way I like narratives to flow. So going back to and revisiting Mojo's Crazy World, I kind of made it about how do you take all the Aristotelian elements of storytelling, like the inciting incident and the third act nightmare that no one can ever unlock. And,
Yeah.
how do you tell that story? And how he just doesn't care,
They're so
and
dysfunctional. He like everything he does is just so oblivious, and Spiral is kind of weirdly enabling him. Major
yeah,
Domo's just kind of stuck there and being like, okay, well, like everything I say, you just gloss over it and ignore
yes.
me.
But in some ways they're all in love. It's like a three-way love affair, that if you flip the quarter that day, it's a three-way hate affair.
Yeah.
They're like constantly, they're like three siblings, who fight all the time. And I definitely always saw, to a certain degree, Mojo and Major Domo as kind of an unrequited couple. And it's really Spiral that has the skill to know that they need to start creating real narratives for these reality TV snuff films,
Yeah.
And so it was really fun to play with that whole idea. And Javier Pina is a master. I mean, like, if I could give you any line from the script where I was like, and then Spiral takes a double helix and twirls it into a Mobius loop, and then out of her fingertips spiral and then the whole room warps in. I was like, he's not gonna be able to do this. And he does it. And it's
Yeah.
gorgeous. It's like, he's a master. And he really gets the emotions on the faces. Like, so he does the spectacular world building, but the looks on everyone's face are spot on. So it was really a dream working with him.
I saw that Art Adams did a cover. Did you know if anyone reached out to him to be like, hey, do you want to do a reunion? Or
I'm friends with Arthur. I don't think he wants to do, he's I mean, I've talked to him over the years about what at cons, when I run into him at a con or something, we've talked about whether or not comics are about storytelling, and the idea that we would do something together again. I think the problem is that he loves a style that no one can afford. I mean, his pages take days. They're labors of love. They're intense labors of love. And I remember when we were working on a graphic novel that was supposed to happen right after the Longshot series, and he turned in the thumbnails, and they're like Alex Toth level genius simplicity. And I was like, Arthur, why don't you just do a story with that style? Because he could do it. And he was like, no, I love his style, the style he's become famous for, and he wants that for his fans. So, I mean, he might someday, maybe he'll, a short story would be fun.
I talked to James Romberger about a
Oh
year
yeah.
ago, and we were talking about that book you two were working on together. And I was like, do you two think that you'll ever work on anything else, or maybe put that out in some form, even if it's not the original one?
I mean, James and I have talked about it, and we both decided no, because for one thing, it's very of its time. It focuses, again, I did the whole thing kind of journalistically. It's about prostitution and sex workers. And so I joined this organization called Pony, Prostitutes of New York, and I started going to their meetings. And, back then, the early 90s, you still had this real feminist fight between whether or not sex work was empowering or exploitative. And I met with a lot of sex workers, and the issue is very complicated. And, they are empowered by their control, of being able to do sex work when they want to and for who they want to. And so a lot of it just came from interviews and going to protests, and a lot of it is very like what was being said at the time. And so it's a slice of life from that time period.
Right.
I don't know. I haven't read it in years. I don't know if it ages well, and if something doesn't come out at that topical, that doesn't come out right at the moment it's supposed to come out, where it shines a light on an issue. Now that issue is 30 years old.
Yeah.
That was 30 years ago. So now that issue has evolved to the point where probably the arguments made in it are naive. They're the arguments of that day.
Right.
And so probably I would have to pull it out, see if I could rewrite it without James having to redraw anything. But I think at the time it was just the idea, like Karen Berger was the editor, and I think at the time it was kind of like, let's push Vertigo further. And this was basically like a diary of a sex worker and what she had gone through. I don't remember what happened. I think that it was like right when the industry was collapsing. Remember, Marvel went bankrupt.
Yeah.
DC was having, and they just, both companies chopped a lot of stuff, and James and our book just got chopped. And I think it's like half drawn and half done. So I feel like if James releases pages once in a while on social media, that's fine. But I think it's just become one of those projects that's never going to be seen.
Oh yeah, are you still painting?
Yeah, I still paint and draw. I do, I do sketches. And again, I was doing a lot more when I thought I was going to do another graphic novel. And my sort of secret dream was to, do the whole thing myself.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, we were talking about it earlier. It's like you have to find the time, and
Yeah.
you can't get paid until it's done. So it's like, what do I do in between then? And can I make time to even work on anything today?
And honestly, it's been a pure joy to go back to Marvel, because I mean, I had such a great time doing Elektra with Sid Kotian. We just had a blast with that story, and now working with Javier Pina, it's such a joy to return to characters that I adore. Like, Marvel over the years has called me and said, do you want to do this or that? And I've always been, I don't have a connection to that character. I don't really get them. And often it would be like wanting you to redo what you were doing back then, like a violent assassin or, a typhoid type, and it's like, I've changed, and the stories I want to tell have changed. So I love working with Mark Basso and Drew. I love working with those two. It's just an incredibly supportive office. They're deeply creative and editorially so strong. And it's a joy to work for them. So that has a lot to do with it. I was talking about after I did 2 graphic novels, Ruby Falls and The Seeds, with Karen Berger for Berger Books, my idea to do a third one was I wanted to work in that kind of process where I just did a little scene, on my own, and kind of like the way I do storyboards for everything, but actually as if I could eventually take my little storyboards and turn them into a story. And, but it's a good exercise for any writer, because you realize how magnificent comic book artists are. I mean, it's just like all you have to do is struggle with one mundane scene.
Yeah.
Enter the airport, and you're like, 3-point perspective, and what do I put? It's like, and how do I minimize the chaos? And it's really good, because you really have developed huge empathy for what you toss at artists and expect them to draw.
Yeah. You can also work on something for a year and then someone will look at it for 10 minutes, and then
Yeah,
they throw it in a pile. And that's not something you get when you're like obsessing over it and you're like, okay, well, now I know how long it takes to do that one panel you were talking
yeah.
about. Every comic, you just kind of treasure it at this point.
It's funny that you would say that because I like going to MochaCon and going up to tables and like trying to just find new stuff, but I have that feeling of the horror of picking something up and putting it back down and not buying it. It's
Yeah.
become something I just can't do. So I like will look at a table and be like, okay, if I pick it up, I'm buying it because I can't handle the look on
Yeah.
the artist's face that is like, are you going to buy it? And then you don't buy it.
Yeah.
And so I don't do that anymore. I just go with a amount of dollars in my pocket and I walk up to tables knowing I'm going to buy something, because it's just too brutal.
Yeah. I was actually talking to someone. Oh, go ahead.
No, even Nick, I'm kind of an old timer. I'm kind of like out of the loop a lot. And I'll go to cons and it happens to all of us. We just sit there like at our tables while a line for Todd McFarlane completely circles your table like a wall and there's no one at your table. And it's
Yeah.
like, so even pros, we feel it too. We're just like, why am I here? Why did they put me next to that insanely long line for that insane superstar comic person?
Yeah. Whenever we talk, I always throw a bunch of recommendations at you, just like a reading pile.
Oh, sure.
This time I have one. It's Okay That It's Not Okay by Christina Tran.
Like I picked up ID by Emma Royce, or I'm not sure if I'm saying her name right.
I'm not familiar.
Oh my God, it's so good. I don't know. It's like really what a comic should be for me because you really enter a world. It's all shades of pink and it's about dysmorphia
Yeah.
and it's so good. Emma Royce, Rios. It's called ID. So I wrote a piece for Panel by Panel for Husan about this comic because I like finding a comic I adore and then writing about.
I love the paper quality of that. Just it looks handmade. It's like it's water. It's like
Oh,
she watercolored it and then just made a copy and then just handed it out like
it's
that.
but it's exquisitely
Yeah.
designed. It's exquisite storytelling, and it's what she has to say is profound. It's deep. It's like body dysmorphia. Like everyone has it. Like it's this weird thing. Like we were talking about with trans. It's like it's. I mean, people think about it. Who doesn't have body dysmorphia?
Yeah.
It's sort of like anyway. So that I would highly recommend.
Um, I'm gonna show some interiors off from this book too. It's really minimalistic, and you were talking about it's something everyone thinks about, and I love because it covers overworking and
Yeah.
uh, are you pushing your? It's one of those things. It's not dinner conversation, but it's one of those things where you read it and you're thinking, I'm glad someone is talking about this.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes like again, the world is overwhelming and you have a couple choices. You can doom scroll and go insane, or you can find a small portal both in your real life and in your online community that is embracing and comforting and do something local in your community. So it's I mean, if you don't develop those methods, number one, I don't turn on the internet. I mean, I go on my computer and write. I'll look at my email to see if there's anything urgent, but I don't read anything because if I don't work for a block of hours, once you enter the portal, you're sucked in, like
Yeah.
you're in space and it's like a black hole you're headed towards, and you can't get out once you start.
Time goes by so quick. I don't know if it's like this for you, but Monday will start and then it's next Monday all of a sudden. It's like you
Yeah.
blink and it's
Yeah.
gone. Like where did that time?
Yeah. So I have like hierarchies set up that are tricks to just keep me from going insane. Like,
Yeah.
go outside, take a walk, meet friends, meet in real life. And then you know, at night, it's like, read a book. And if you get tired of reading a book, find a good documentary where you'll at least learn something.
Yeah.
And then at the bottom is like, oh my God, just flood my brain with something where I don't have to think anymore at all. And I'll take any crap that just has a hook at the end
Yeah.
and I keep clicking, you know.
So is there anything you think we left out or anything you just want to toss out there?
You know, my love of comics runs deep, and you know, I say the same things I always say is, you know, go to a comic shop. I like to just go to a comic shop and ask whoever's working there, like, what do you read?
Yeah.
You know, and if they point me to something mainstream, I think, now I'm going to just browse on my own, you know.
Yeah.
But a lot of times there, people who work in comic shops are really know what they're doing, and they'll find you the gems, you know, they'll find you what you're looking for. So support comic shops before they die. I guess I would say that.